Good morning. It is wonderful to see all of you. And this peace bowl that I rang once to get your attention, but it didn't seem like a real peace bowl ringing. And the second time was to affirm our collective hope for peace in this world that has so many things happening, which I believe is always true. And we also ring this bowl to affirm that these lands that we love, that these lands where we love to go kayaking and biking and walking and just simply sitting and breathing in that butterscotch smell of the ponderosas and watching the moon rise, that this land that we love, this land is the ancestral land of the Yavapai people, the Wipukepas, the Quevkepayas, the Tolkepayas, and the Yavapai. We open this service with a sound from my childhood, from my 6 years of childhood spent in countries where most of the people in those countries were Muslim. This is a Muslim call to prayer.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Good morning and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott, Arizona. I'm Annette Skellinger, your rookie worship associate for today. We extend a warm welcome to all. We are glad that you're able to join us and hope you are managing to get out and enjoy plenty of Prescott's plentiful sunshine. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. Please join us after the service for coffee and socializing in small groups in Davis Hall, or for those on Zoom, please join us for breakout rooms. If you're joining us for the first time, please check our website at prescottuu.org for more information about us. And if you're here in person, there will be plenty of time for you to introduce yourself at the end of the service and then stay and chat with a member or two. We thank Mary Lou Prince, our choir director, for all of our musical offerings today. and all of our wonderful volunteers who make us comfortable before, during, and after the service. And now our usual reminder, please take a moment to set your phones to worship mode if you haven't already. In addition to the announcements that are showing on the screen before the service, and you can read about other things happening at GPUUC in the Weekly Peak newsletter, on our website, in Reverend Patty's videos, and we have some printed copies of the announcements on the welcome table. Sandra Palacios, our faith development coordinator, is doing her usual stellar job of teaching 5-year-olds across the street, 5-year-olds and older across the street at the Faith Development Building, and children under 5 are enjoying their time in the nursery in this building. We began our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Joe Sprague. And today we light the chalice with these words. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
Good morning again. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. I come to you refreshed by some amazing music that Mary Lou and I listened to in the past couple of weeks, and by the walk we took in the moonlight last night. Did you see the moon's face rising through the trees or from behind a mountain? On our evening walks this week, we heard crickets for the first time this year. I wonder if you heard them. We listened to what Rachel Carson calls the living music of insect orchestras. Isn't that marvelous? In France, in 1940, so I think if you think 1940, you might imagine the Third Reich moving into Paris. At that time, a man from Switzerland whose name was Roger Schutz, who was called Brother Roger, he was on a quest, and he knew that the French were he was Swiss, and he knew that the French were so discouraged by what was happening in their country, by the defeat to the Germans, that he created a community there, a community that would have a different expression. This is what he wrote. The defeat of France had awakened powerful sympathy. If a house could be found there of the kind I had dreamed, it would offer a possible way of assisting some of those most discouraged, those deprived of a livelihood, and it could become a place of silence and work. And in this land of poverty and wartime suffering, Brother Roger created a place where people could find inner freedom. And one part of this community, which is called Taizé community, is about singing. This song that we are going to sing together to open this service on pluralism, or the many faiths that can sustain us, is Vieni Spirito Creatore. This was created in that community using Latin words calling to the spirit of creation. I will sing them once, and then I will ask you to sing them with me. We will be joining with that host of singers in Taizé as they healed from the effects of war. Vieni Spirito Creatore, vieni, vieni, vieni Spirito Creatore, vieni, vieni, Spirito Creatore, vieni, They love to get creative and go everywhere with that, Taizé. Thank you. Now let us say together our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. And now I invite you again into the sound of this bell. Let us breathe together and feel our feet, or remember how our feet felt on the earth. This earth that we love, this earth and its many layers that we can see when we walk into that beautiful canyon, the layers we see when we walk around this beautiful place. Let us think of those layers below us, ever changing, sometimes volcanoes erupting, earthquakes, and all of the effects of wind and water. We come to this place each week, carrying our joys and our sorrows. In our social justice meetings, we have thought of food insecurity as one of the sorrows we wish to hold in this community. And for that reason today, and I think it will become a tradition, we are going to put our offerings for the food bank, which you can see are plenteous or plentiful in front of where the bowl is. So if you bring food for the food pantry, I would invite you to bring it up during this time of our joys and sorrows. Today, we hold all those in our Quad City community and in the greater community and in this world who are struggling to find enough to eat. The children who go to school hungry, We also hold Kelsey Wilkes, who just had surgery, and Bev Bostrom, who had surgery. Both are doing very well. We hold Joan Brown in happiness. She had a difficult time, but she is up and doing her squats and racing around once again. We also especially hold Jackie Hurst. And we mourn the hundreds of people who died in the train crash in India and the many who were injured. We hold their families and friends whose worlds are forever changed by this accident. And now I invite you, are there any names of people that you know that you would like to hold in the love of this community? Stephanie Allen, Lila Witt, Ken K. Scholl, thank you. Sally Richards, thank you, Edie. And Edie in happiness. Oh no, Kelsey and Jeff both have COVID, and happiness that Tracy Augustine is recovering well from COVID. Oh, and Lila has COVID. Oh, she worked so hard to avoid it. Oh, so we can't say we are post-COVID. Yeah. Mary Leonard, thank you, Mary Leonard. Any others? Amanda Clayton, thank you. Ardella's father, Charlie, who turned 90 this week. And Sarah Shaw. Taking med school residency exams. May she do well. Yes. Is there anything on our chat here? Rick Denny in happiness because he's on a river trip of a lifetime with Rick Denny on the whitewater. Woo! And Karen and Chuck Stewart. Karen and Chuck. Any others? So now let us go into that time of meditation. Mary Lou will play some music. I invite you to come up. If your bags haven't already been delivered to this place up here, I invite you to bring them up. And I invite you to put a stone in joy or sorrow for yourself or for someone near and dear to you. Thank you. Thank you. Please join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, great Spirit, we hold in the arms of this community the food insecurity that is around us. We hold the joys and sorrows. We celebrate with the joys, and we hold those who are experiencing sorrow. May we all be brave enough to share our joys and our sorrows with each other. And we ask for peace on this earth. Amen, and may it be so. And now let us sing, Walking, Walking with You. Walking, walking with you, walking with you is my prayer.
As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather here each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. This month's recipient is the PRISM Network. PRISM Network, formerly the Greater Yavapai County Coalition, is a nonprofit coalition of organizations that provide an umbrella of support to members and allies of the LGBTQ+ community in Yavapai County, Arizona. To give online, the link is available in the chat, or you can go to our website. Please enjoy our offertory music, Morning at Daijoji, Kyoto music by Mary Lou Prince. I'm feeling the awesome responsibility it is to take your donations in support of this congregation and the wonderful things that we attempt to do for each other. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be.
During the lifetime of the Buddha, a woman named Gotami was born in a very poor family in the city of Sravastri in North India. She was extremely lean and thin, so people called her Kisa Gotami. She was married into a rich family, but she could not get any happiness that she expected by entering a rich family. Because she had come from a poor family, they did not accept her, and she was childless. Her only chance to become part of this family and respected at last was to have a child. And at last, one day, she had a child. But after only 2 years, her child died. This child was how she had any respect in the world, any honor from that family. The death was unbearable to her. She became extremely unhappy. She started lamenting, holding the child to her heart. And when people got ready to take the child to the cremation ground, she would not let the child go. She said to them, "Call a good doctor. I know that this child can live again." People did not know what to do, and she refused to give up the child. Then finally, someone suggested that she go to the Buddha, who was compassionate and also a great physician. Weeping and wailing and holding the child to her heart, Kisa Gotami went to speak with the Buddha. She laid the dead child at the feet of the Buddha and began to pray to him, "Bring my child back to life." The Buddha saw her plight, and he said, "I have medicine for you. Go to the city and find a pinch of mustard seed from any family where no one has died. That mustard seed will create medicine that may bring your child back." Feeling happy, Kisa Gotami went to the city to get mustard seeds from, if she could find such a family. She went from house to house, knocking on the door and asking, "Is this a house where there has been no death?" And every time the answer was the same: "We have had death in this house." And after she had been to every house in the city, she realized that death was something that happened to everyone. And she went back to the Buddha. And she said, "I am ready to send the dead body of my son for the last rites." And after that, she sought refuge in the Buddha. And during her life, she became someone who knew how to heal the suffering of women who came to that place. We Unitarian Universalists have a reputation. We have a reputation as seekers, And we have been a source of humor, especially to Garrison Keillor, who I believe told this joke. How do you drive a Unitarian Universalist out of town? Any ideas? Burn a question mark on their front lawn. Our uncertainty, our seeking for truth in many places, that makes people uncomfortable. And I believe that this is evidence of how different we all are on this earth, that this evidence is found in the religious homes that we choose. We choose such different ones, even in the same family. And we think, how could my brother think that place was a good idea? And he's thinking, oh my gosh, what does she see in that place? Some people are drawn to certainty. They want to know that if they live in a certain way, if they follow certain rules, that they are promised a place in heaven. And most of the people I have met who've become Unitarian Universalists seek for truth in many places. Among those places are science, world religions, and the natural world around us. Unitarian Universalists, for the most part, embrace questions. And what all of us have in common, all of us humans, is that beyond anything that we believe, we have a shared human experience. We are born. Many of us give birth. We go to death. We experience the death of people we love. I wonder how many of your families have experienced the death of a child. If you look back far enough in a family, you always find my great-grandmother bore 4 children, but by the time she died, only one of them was left. In our village in Japan, when the son of one of the grandmothers died and he was 50, she said, "Children must outlive their parents." The death of a child is too much to bear, and I believe it is. I have seen that in both Mary Lou and my families, how the death of a child can sometimes change everything in a family. And throughout the history of humankind, parents have mourned the death of children, and religions had to find some way, some explanation, some theology that would support those parents. In Christianity, sometimes grieving parents are told that their children have become angels. And sometimes they're told that God must have needed their child. Or people are told that their child will be waiting for them in heaven. I have seen some people find comfort in that, and I have seen a lot of people feel anger at that, as if it is pepper thrown at their wound. Mostly this promise has seemed flimsy in the face of a huge loss. Buddha, I believe, did find the good medicine in this story of the mustard seed. Instead of trying to convince the mother that the child was better off, he asked her to connect with other humans and discover that her loss was not unique, that everyone, that all houses experience grief. Only then, when she could completely understand that, could she heal. Many of us in this place have found refuge in the teachings of the Buddha. Mary Lou and I often spoke with the priest of our village in Japan, Yamashima Obo-san. And although there are many complex teachings in Buddhism, the teaching that he left us with, he would come, I know many of our villagers came to our home in winter because we had a big Wisconsin wood burning stove. We had the warmest living room in the whole village. And the grandparents would come and they would rub their legs. They would sit around and they'd put sweet potatoes inside that wood burning stove. But what we saw, what he left us with, was that in almost any life situation he encountered, he found gratitude somewhere. He taught us the power of being grateful. Yamashima Obo-san, in speaking of the war and his time in China as a soldier, which was a very sorrowful time for him, he would always close his words, his conversations with us, with "Kanshai tashimasu." It's a humble way of saying, I am grateful. He didn't only say words, but we saw him struggle. We saw him struggle through a stroke that limited his mobility, and then a second one that confined him to his home. And through all of those changes, he brought a deep sense of joy, which I believe was grounded in his gratitude for his life, for each breath, and in his practice of compassion towards himself and towards all that was around him, including 2 strangers from a foreign land. Let us sing together a meditation of compassion filled with loving kindness. During the last 2 weeks away, we spent 2 days with my brother David, who you met at my installation, and his wife Anna, who is a Lutheran pastor and theologian. You can Google her, Anna Madsen. She's quite amazing. She looked at me and she asked, "What was your path to Unitarian Universalist ministry?" And this is what I told her, that after I left the religion of my ancestors, I spent many years searching. We moved to Japan only months after I left that religion. And there we were able to embark on a study of Buddhism and Shintoism. And later we dove into Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, and finally Christianity. We spent 2.5 years traveling to holy places all over this earth. I found wisdom in all of the truths, all of these faiths that I encountered. But I was always looking for how a belief made people behave. For I had left my birth religion, I no longer believed it, but I was horrified by the way people acted who held that belief. So I looked for how people treated each other, how people treated us as strangers. Buddhism resonated with me because the people I encountered seemed to be living well and with kindness and with a sense of play. I fell in love with Buddhism when a friend of ours who was a Buddhist priest, who we took on a hilarious journey to discover Christianity in Italy once. And we were trying to explain to him and his wife, who was also a priest, the pictures of saints, Anyway, it was an amazing journey. They'd ask them anyway. But that priest told me, he said, being foolish is important. Baka nga iyo. Others spoke of this as keeping a child's heart, kodomo gokoro. This was good medicine for me because I was constantly doing foolish things as I was working with a language so different from my own. And I studied tea ceremony with his wife, who would have cats join us. I found that teaching was good medicine for the perfectionism that I grew up believing in as strongly as any of the other parts of the theology. I believe it is good medicine for all of us and the perfectionism we bring to Unitarian Universalism. And in our searches in Islamic countries and communities, even in the far corners of China where we visited mosques, we were always moved by the welcome, that the beliefs of Islam brought out hospitality towards strangers and generosity towards those in trouble. We will always remember the day we spent with a woman named Fatima. We were on our way to a Coptic monastery in northern Egypt that I had wanted to see for so many years. And the driver of the taxi who was taking us there said, we need to stop and talk with Fatima. So we stopped and Fatima opened her doors to us and we spoke in a kind of Arabic gibberish the whole day about her mother, the dreams she had for her son, her own dreams to one day go to Mecca on a pilgrimage. And finally, as we said goodbye, she said to us what we often heard after spending long times with people in Islamic countries. She said, we are sisters. We are sisters. In Judaism, we loved the sense of belonging that we saw, the celebrations throughout the year. Our friend who came out to her Jewish mother said that her mother wanted her to be happy more than she wanted her to be obedient. Wow, was that different than what I grew up with? I also loved the forgiveness offered at Yom Kippur to the conversos, the Jews who had to deny their Judaism in order to survive. We marveled at the way that Judaism maintained the culture and belief in such adversity through the centuries. We visited synagogues in India, in Poland, in Czech Republic, in Berlin, Israel, Syria, and we visited the memorials in Warsaw and Auschwitz. We fell in love with the Jewish belief of tikkun olam, healing the broken world, and the importance of doing good works. Our Jewish friends would often talk about mitzvah, the importance of doing mitzvah. Our last journeys were to Christian places in Jerusalem. We walked along the shores of Galilee and monasteries in the deserts around Cairo. And during these journeys, we came to know a different Jesus than the one we were introduced to as children. We came to know Rabbi Jesus, kind of from a Jewish lens. This Jew who drew a circle so wide and hospitable that he could include people who had leprosy, mental illness, women who were sex workers. He was not the Jesus of my Sunday school. And I found in him much wisdom and much courage. During my chaplaincy at Good Samaritan Hospital in Phoenix, one of the patients I visited was Hindu. He was a man in his early 30s who had a stroke when he was off on a business trip in Texas. That meant he had the stroke when he was alone and no one found him for 12 hours. And we all know how important those hours are. He was very depressed. He had so much work to do that was ahead of him, physical therapy and all of those things, and the outcome did not look great. He could not speak. He was not able to walk yet. And the doctors said that it was unclear how he would be able to recover. And in consultation with my advisor, I took to him a small statue of Ganesh, and I took to him a prayer. Ganesh is the god with the elephant head. Do you know that god? It has a wonderful elephant head and a big body. Ganesh is the god you call upon to break down barriers, to remove obstacles. This young man needed Ganesh. Together we prayed this prayer. Salutations to the one who has a curved trunk and a huge body, the one who radiates the glow of millions of suns, and to the one who removes obstacles. Bless me before all my endeavors, always and forever. In all of my encounters with different religions, I found truths that resonated. Unitarian Universalist ministry was the only one that I felt was large enough for the sources that had grounded my theology. For me to be able to say at a pulpit that Buddhism might have a more useful way of encountering death than Christianity is a privilege. It's a privilege that not very many ministers have. As a Unitarian Universalist minister, I don't have to see a hierarchy of religious sources, with Christianity as the real source of truth And then other religions have a semblance of truth, but not the whole truth. Did you hear that? That was big in where I was. Not the whole truth. On this road to pluralism, often at first, I believe we want to see how things are similar. But I think we need to pass through this road of thinking that we must think about how Islam is like Christianity or how Buddhism is like Hinduism or any of these things. I think we need to savor what the things that are different. I urge you to find and see the ways that these faiths are different from each other. I believe that that is the road to finding oneness. Just as in our families and in our relationships and in this congregation, if we can see and understand and finally appreciate our differences, then we can find beloved community. As Unitarian Universalists, our holy books can contain sources like the indigenous wisdom of braiding sweetgrass. And I can openly talk with you about listening to the trees and listening to Granite Mountain without you trying to change me. Our theology, the theology that we come to, can be expressed by Carl Sagan's words about the place of the earth in the universe, in that marvelous YouTube you need to see called The Blue Dot. I think many of you know that. That was Ken Briefer's theology. In this congregation, I've heard stories of people such as Suze Rezatar, who is so beloved, who came from a strong Catholic background and came here, and this was a place where she could fully express her pagan beliefs, her love of nature. She could celebrate the solstice and the turning of the seasons. For some, this is a place where they bring their love of the science of the earth, along with the beauty they experience viscerally and intellectually and spiritually in the Grand Canyon and the songbirds and the trees around Willow Lake. I wonder what you each bring with you. It's my hope that our circle, the circle of this congregation, is wide enough for you and what you bring, and that Unitarian Universalism encourages you to approach the ideas and experiences of this world with curiosity. If I were to choose an image to accompany us during this not yet post-COVID time, it would be Ganesh, that strong elephant who breaks down the barriers that separate us from each other, that keep us from jumping into life because for those years we couldn't reach out, we couldn't jump into life. Salutations to the one who has a curved trunk and a huge body, the one who radiates the glow of millions of suns, and to the one who removes obstacles. Bless us all forever in our endeavors always. In my road to pluralism, I've also learned that just as there are valuable beliefs and practices in all religions, there are also wrongdoings in every single country that is connected with a religion. I have been horrified by the treatment of the Muslim Rohingya, by the people of Burma, who were so wonderful when we visited. I thought the Buddhists of Burma would do better than that. And the Shinto groups in Japan are strongly opposing same-sex marriage there. I have seen prejudice and racism everywhere I went, if not visible in the present, as a part of the history of one of the layers of history of that land. And as Unitarian Universalists, let us dive into this search for wisdom, not searching for perfection in a people, but searching for wisdom, knowing that no one group offers all the answers. Together, we celebrate the radical idea that the whole world has goodness and wisdom to offer on our path through life, even if it makes Garrison Keillor want to tell a joke. May we encourage each other to engage in that search for truth, and may we have joy, and may we keep our child's heart. Amen, and may it be so. And now let us sing together the Hebrew words that mean goodbye, my friends, until we meet again. Shalom havayrim, lehitraot. Shalom havayrim, shalom havayrim, shalom, shalom. Lehitraot, lehitraot, shalom, shalom. Shalom havayrim, shalom havayrim, shalom, shalom. Lehitraot, lehitraot, shalom, shalom. Our closing words are going to be uttered by you all, because I want you to share your experiences with finding sources of wisdom. And I have questions that are on the tables in Davis Hall. So I invite you to create your own closing words to this worship and talk about the variety of sources, the variety of experiences that you have had in your life that have brought you to this place. May we share these closing words with each other often. Amen, and may it be so. I'll read you the questions, because on Zoom, I want you to, on your breakout rooms. Okay. What are the sources where you search for wisdom? Where do you search for wisdom when you are experiencing difficulties? Where have you found truth? Where do you feel awe? They're all written down and they're on those tables. And I hope that you in your breakout rooms also talk about these questions. And now let us extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now I'm going to invite people on Zoom to go into your breakout rooms and remember the questions. Maybe I could give them to Deidre. She could put them in the chat. Anyway, you'll get the questions. So, and now it's the time for us, if there are any who are visiting or who have been here, haven't been here, and you think nobody remembers you, here is your time to say your name out loud. That probably, I don't know if I would have stood up after hearing that. Sorry. Anyway, we would love to welcome you if you are here for the first time.